Welcome to the GoldenEdge podcast. Today I am joined by John Common. John is working on Dead Pixels 2 straight to video. So thanks for coming on, John. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming back again. Our last podcast was actually 2 years ago now. It was like, I think we did a Halloween one.
Yeah, we somehow missed last year. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had to double check because I actually realised that we missed last year until I looked at our last video. It just seems like as I get older, time just seems to pass a lot quicker.
Oh yeah, I'm very aware of that feeling of like I recently just kind of realised like it's getting dark early at night. What happened to summer?
Yeah. Are you finding that's happening with Dead Pixels 2 with when you're working on it, things are just going
like
really quickly?
I try. My hope would be to get like a beta version, like a beta update every week, and then sometimes like I got one out today, and like it's actually been like 2.5 weeks, and it's just like a week can go by so fast. It feels like.
Yeah.
I've sometimes found as well, if like I take a day off, then like the next day seems to go kind of, well, like work goes slowly, but the day goes by really quick.
Yeah, you're playing catch up.
Yeah, like getting back into like the swing of things always seems a little hard after like a day off. And so like before I know it, like I'm like halfway through that week of like hoping to get a new build out, and like I'm looking at features and I'm like, I've not done much that's like, I've fixed things, but nothing that's like super like obvious to testers. And so then I'm like, I have to do something interesting, and like before I know it, it's like 2 weeks, and so like I guess like 2 weeks isn't bad, like getting a new update out every 2 weeks and like having it be something that looks different at least and has some new features, because like it isn't super like motivating to like get people to play when it's just like, yeah, no, I fixed a bunch of stuff that like wasn't even bothering 90% of you.
Yeah, most people didn't notice the bugs in the first place, probably.
Yeah, like you get some that's like people occasionally notice that there was one big bug that I had a lot of issues with, where it was like sometimes your damage would be really low when you'd shoot at zombies, and also sometimes like you'd melee and it did absolutely nothing. And what it turned out was they were both the same bug, and I eventually found it where it was like it was zombie spit, because you get the ones that spit like this green stuff at you. Like when that lands on the ground, like the game stops showing it to you, but like it's still technically there, and it was absorbing damage. So like when zombie spitters had been like making a complete mess of an area, there was all this hidden spit that would absorb damage. And like a few people are aware of it. Like I'd see it like maybe once a week, but could never like diagnose what was causing it. And eventually I think I just had a day of like, I have to just keep playing till I actually like find it and like try and diagnose what actually is going on here, what's absorbing this damage, and like set things up so that I can actually test it and won't get like killed by something while trying to test it. And like I had another bug last night that like I don't think anyone was really aware of until like I discovered that when players got knocked back by an explosion or a hit, like it would make a duplicate player that zombies could attack. And they were invisible, but like the zombie would like see this other player that it could attack.
Attacking thin air?
Yeah, so they'd attack thin air possibly, and you would take damage. And like no one has ever reported this issue, but it was possible. Instead, people were reporting when like a player dies, like zombies would go a bit wild with seeing a player. And they were seeing one of these duplicate ones, and they were kind of like seeing a player and then going, oh, but all players are dead, I should return to wandering. And then they were seeing the invisible player, and they would just like 60 times a second switch between them. And so you get this like terrible like 60 zombie groans a second playing when you died. And yeah, but no one had noticed like that there was bigger things to this.
Well, I can imagine days would just fly past fixing those bugs, but and in some ways, well, we're going to come on to the elephant in the room here, and that's why the game isn't fully released, because I know it's in beta stage, and if you pre-order it, you can play it as you're saying. And I respect the fact that you're fixing these problems before the game comes out, because a lot of companies would, I know you're not a company, but a lot of game companies now would just release the game and then think, oh, I'll fix this stuff after it. So I think a lot of people, especially of my generation, can appreciate that you're actually taking the time to do that now.
Yeah, like I actually, it's this is kind of a little grim, but I do actually go onto like the Steam forums when like a game comes out, an indie game, and I read the negative stuff to try and work out what other games are doing really badly. Like, you know, people may be complaining about like, I can't play this windowed, or I can't change controls, and just stuff like that. And like, why are people giving this game a negative review? And like, maybe people complaining about like combat doesn't seem to flow smoothly, and it's like, okay, I have to make sure that this is right.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm very focused with like, I have to release this like as in as good a state as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that must be really stressful to think that you could spend all this time and energy to, you know, put something that you love together, and then someone just doesn't like the fact you can't play it windowed, and now all of a sudden it gets 1 star, and then that snowball happens, because you see that a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of, it is a little nerve-wracking, like some of that stuff. And like I got a whole bunch of new testers recently, because I kind of I never really pushed the beta pre-order thing too much.
Yeah,
I'll tweet about it, but still people will miss it a lot, or like people are aware there's a beta but they don't know how to get into it.
Yeah.
And so I've recently kind of put a lot of effort into the Discord, and I done a thing where I gave away 5 copies for free.
Right, yeah, I've seen that.
And
actually,
like that brought in like so many people. So the Discord's like a little under 200 people now, and like a bunch of people found out that you could pre-order to get beta access, and so they're just like, yeah, no, I'll just do this. And so I got a whole like influx of new people, and like a bunch of people are kind of like, I don't know, they're complaining about little things that are just like, no, this is just like, this is core game, I can't change this.
right.
Like, and like I want to, but like that's the game.
You'd have to redo the whole game.
You know, like I had someone kind of bringing up like that they couldn't shoot like directly down, and I was like, well, that's kind of
You're
the
right.
game. You know, you shoot left and right.
I can't go into the over the shoulder camera mode.
Yeah, yeah, like and that's like, I want to fix that, but like I'm at least like willing to say like, no, I can't, which is a shame. But like part of me wants to like make it right for that person that wanted to be able to do that.
But then if you make too many changes, it sort of loses its charm, and you know, you wouldn't want to change it too much from the first Dead Pixels just to keep a couple of people happy, I don't think.
Yeah, like I think generally when someone has complained about something, I've just been kind of like, well, Dead Pixels 1 was like that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I've changed some things, but like that's what the game is. And like I'm kind of willing to like look into alternate modes, and like I've got the custom game, so like if people don't really like how the game is, like then you go ahead, like mess around with a bunch of settings and like make something you enjoy, like make it easier or harder, and that kind of thing. And so like there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that like it can make something really challenging for me. Which can be quite fun, or like I'd love to have some silly options, because I've had friends kind of ask occasionally if we could just do something weird like fight 100 zombie poodles, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's set that up. And so I'd like other people to be able to do that, and hopefully that kind of helps a bit, because I'm never really sure if I should call Dead Pixels survival horror, but like it borrows from that like limited ammo. And like a bit of kind of inventory management, but it's not got like the puzzles and like the camera angles that are generally associated with survival horror. So I'm never really sure whether to say it is or not.
I know. Well, I'd say because primarily the gameplay focuses on the action, so I think it's on the cusp. But
and so like I know not everyone's into that, and people seem to really like the wave-based mode in the original.
Yeah.
So like I've been trying to like rework a new version of that and trying to like work out like how can I streamline this, and it's like should I remove like leveling up so that like this is just like you jump in and like do you know whatever you do something that like maybe someone who doesn't want to like spend time leveling up and putting skill points in and all that and like finding ammo, like they just want to kill zombies and like buy ammo and like maybe pick from like a skill every now and then, but you know, speeding it up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
well, we talked about this a little bit before we started, but I found a post on your Twitter which was it was actually the post was that 4 years ago you announced you were working on Dead Pixels 2, but that post was from 2016. So am I right in saying that you've been kind of working on this for 6 years? Is that right?
So it would be like it would have been like June 2012 I started, and that was before the original Dead Pixels was on Steam. I just released it on PC in like May, I think it was, and I'd applied to Valve to get it on Steam, and they were like, "We're Valve, we'll reply whenever." In fact, like I think I hounded them a little, like trying to find like other email addresses I could email and kind of ask like, "Have you made a decision?" And they were like, "No, wait, this is still being considered." And I had someone put a good word in for it, which I don't know if that made any difference or not, but like it got on. So. But like I started Dead Pixels 2, and I think it was literally like 2 or 3 weeks into like working on Dead Pixels 2 that Valve said yes to Dead Pixels 1.
Right.
And there was a kind of long drawn out, like they were doing Greenlight, it just been announced, and so like they were trying to push things through that, and so it was a really long time before I got like a proper release date, because today like you can just release a game like in a week, but then you had to like arrange it, and it'd be like you'd be put into like a slot, and like they try and find you a day that had like not too many games released and stuff like that. And so like the game, I think I eventually like chose my release day and all that, and that was like December. Like so there was a lot of like going back and doing tweaks. I changed a bunch of stuff up for Steam that I didn't like. I added like achievements and leaderboards and stuff like that. And then like, I think it was April 2013 before I was like, I should work on Dead Pixels 2, because I kind of abandoned that last year to work on this. And then like I was fixing bugs and like doing technical support for like 4 months, 5 months. It's kind of surprising like how much time and energy goes into like post-release of a game.
Yeah, it's
like,
not that surprising to be honest. Like I'm sure it takes up a lot of your day. Yeah,
and like people don't really like you to say it, but like you're what you're mostly doing is helping people to fix their computers.
Yeah.
And you're not really like changing your game. You're just telling people like how to like uninstall like some framework they've installed badly and like reinstall it. And there was like I had a terrible bug that was from what was most probably a pirated version of Windows XP. Because it didn't have to be, but I'm gonna say it was probably people that had pirated Windows XP were having this bug, and it took a really long time for me to be able to give them like a breakdown of how to like uninstall this thing and then delete these files because you've got it installed badly, and then reinstall it and it'll work. But like people see it as like it's the game's fault, not like their version of Windows. But like that's what a lot of my time was.
Tech support all of a sudden.
Yeah, like that's what you end up doing. And so like I was doing that for so long, and then eventually I kind of got back to Dead Pixels, and so it's kind of like it's changed from what it was when I started, because when I started it was I wanted to make the game that Valve would say yes to.
Yeah.
Because like it seemed to me like they weren't interested in Dead Pixels, and Dead Pixels was like a $1 game that was made in like it was 7 months till it was released on Xbox, and then there was like another like say 6 months to the PC release, and then like another like 6 months till the Steam release. So there was quite a bit of time put in there, and before the Steam release, but still like it was a small game. It was done cheap. Like I wanted to make like a $5 game instead of a $1 game. And so like I kind of had a bunch of ideas, and then I think at some point I was like, well, I got that on Steam, like I want to make a $10 game. So like it kind of I extended what I was going to be doing. And I think since then, like there's multiple things that like I've cut that I would love to do. I think I came to the realization a few days ago that like something I really wanted to do, I'm just like, that's just cut. Like that's just like that's a month or more of like extra work, and like probably money of hiring someone to do stuff, and like I don't need that.
Yeah, maybe that's something you could do post, launch or something.
Yeah, there's like there's a bit of a list of things that I would like to do. I think I really wanted to do like a kind of like competitive sort of mode, not like directly fighting each other, but like doing like challenges, like part of this weird like game show with zombies. And I thought about like, adding all this, and I kind of just decided like, no, like this can like get added if like the game releases and is successful to a point, and like can justify me doing that. And there's a few other things like that I'd like to do, but like
I remember listening to a radio show, and I was interviewing a band who had just came out, I think they maybe had just released their second album. But this is what reminds me of, you said that it took you 7 months to work on and release Dead Pixels 1, but what the interviewer in the show said, that it takes you your entire life to make your first album, and then you have 2 years to make your next one.
Yeah.
So like, although it, you physically worked on that for 7 months, like there was years before that you were learning how to do code and maybe worked on other games and stuff. So, but Dead Pixels 1 was just the first one that really, I guess, was launched commercially.
I released a few games, and they just kind of like my it's like, I think Dead Pixels has sold like, we'll say maybe like 400,000 copies, and like my next best-selling game has sold like 1,000. And then like below that you're like maybe like 400, and then like I've got a game that I think like didn't reach 100 sales. Exactly, and so like there's all these other ones that like never remotely came close, that were like the learning steps, and like I don't know, like I feel like a lot of things changed between Dead Pixels 1 and 2, like just with market as well. Like I need to make like so much more polished.
I know what you mean.
And like it's weird when I look back at Dead Pixels 1, I don't hate it or anything, but like there's certain things that like I'm just like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Like how it looks, to me it looks a bit kind of like weirdly, everything looks very flat, because of the way I've kind of got it done. Like the game looks low resolution, but it's not. It's running at like 720p, and so everything's like big and blocky, but like they're free to move around. And Dead Pixels 2 isn't like that. Dead Pixels 2 runs at a low resolution, and then the whole thing's stretched for your monitor, and it just makes everything look more like together and less like paper cutouts moving around like Dead Pixels 1 does.
Well,
and like,
you shouldn't be so hard on yourself, because I know some people who still like Dead Pixels 1 and still go back and play it. So
yeah, like I think to an extent, like it's just me being like kind of harsh on myself, and like the industry's kind of like changed a bit. Like I don't know if Dead Pixels 1 would like survive Steam if it was released today. Like I mean, maybe it would, but like I don't feel like it wouldn't have got the same level of success. And so like I kind of feel like there's like a part of me as silly as it sounds, like I just want Dead Pixels 2 to be as successful as Dead Pixels 1, even though I've put all this extra work into it.
Yeah.
That would make me just as happy. Like, what wouldn't make me happy is if like it does worse. As long as it does
Yeah.
just as well, like I'm kind of happy. Like,
We've sort of mentioned there about Discord. How is that shaping the game? Is that you finding it's helping with bugs or?
so the Discord, it's still quite new. So like, I think it was like end of August. I think I maybe had it before then. I had it for quite some time, and then like I'd went into a bunch of other Discords that like other games had to see what they were like, and in like a friend's game, like I went into his Discord to see what he was doing with it, and I kind of just decided like that evening, like, okay, I'm gonna like open this up and like actually post about it here and here, and like so it's still like really new, and like some days it can be overwhelming
Yeah.
amounts of like people posting on it, and then other days it's just like I don't think anyone posted on it at all.
Well, I actually, because I seen it was on your Twitter, and then I thought I'll join over, and that's the first thing that came into my head. I was like, oh my god, this is so stressful. Like I actually felt bad for you a bit, because I was like seeing all these people just reporting bugs, and I was like, well, I know that's what it's there for, but I was like, you know, give the guy a break sort of thing. But I suppose it's better to see those things now than when the game's launched, because maybe there's things that you won't have picked up on that other people are.
I can't remember. Did you join when I was doing the like when I was giving away the 5 copies? Was that when
Yeah.
you joined? Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think just after that happened, I was like, I need to restructure this whole Discord, because like it's like I've got like I think I just had it one section for suggestions,
Yeah.
and like I had a general chat, and like everything was like getting too easily lost, and so I had to kind of separate out suggestions into different things. And I just recently added like a beta general chat section, so like there's a general chat, and then there's like a general chat for the beta.
Yeah.
So that kind of like makes it a bit easier, because like the general chat can have like people just talking about like switches or something, or you know, consoles or films or whatever, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And then like I've got the beta chat to kind of like look through like stuff and kind of ask questions there without like it being mixed in with the general. So it's still like it's a learning process. I've now like also applied for the Discord to be verified, which will hopefully like add some bonuses to it, so that like it's officially recognized as like this is the Dead Pixels 2 Discord. So I'm kind of like, they kind of said like we'll check on your Discord and make sure like everything's kind of done properly, and I'm like hoping
above
that
board.
there's a part of me's tempted to just like I've got like a second user account on the Discord, and like I was tempted just to like make it a moderator, so it looks like I have a moderator.
Yeah.
But then it would just be like there'll be a whole bunch of people asking why this account that's never posted is a moderator, and it's just like, no, well, that's technically me. It was the one I had, so I could literally like its entire purpose was there so I could check on the Discord without me being
Logging
like
in.
online.
Yeah.
And then anything would be left as unread on my main account. But I could have a quick scan and make sure things are okay. I did also like kind of badly. I think my first push for the Discord was like 2 days before I went on a trip, and so like I was just checking my phone constantly, and I think my girlfriend was a little worried that I was like too obsessed with it, and I was like, no, I'm just like half an hour a day just checking, you know, and like welcoming people to the Discord and like answering any questions that are there. But I think she was a bit concerned that I seemed to be checking it too often, and I was kind of like, I'll just check like once in the morning and once in the evening, and 15 minutes each, and that should do it. It luckily got a bit quieter by like a few days away, so it didn't like I wasn't on it constantly.
I can imagine that when you're sort of in the creative process and you're making changes and adding things, it's probably almost impossible for you to pinpoint when things changed and what time they changed. And I was going to ask or try and make some sort of consistency between our last podcast episode and this one, so like try and talk about what has changed. The good thing is I can actually, I know what I didn't notice last time round, so that'll probably help us here.
I know like
so I have
some changes from like a year ago, because like last September I showed the game at EGX, and so like I kind of remember what that build was like, but I don't really remember what the year before was like. It's gone into the
exactly
ether of my mind.
Well, I have a bit of a list here of things that I'll ask you, I think, that I've certainly changed that I've noticed are new. And then if I miss anything, then I'll get you to fill in the blanks. But so, because after we done our last podcast, you mentioned that if you pre-order, you get beta access, which I didn't actually even know about at the time. So I more or less instantly pre-ordered and then played the beta. But the thing is, like I'm the sort of person that I'm not really big into betas and things like that, because I would just rather play the game in its finished form, because I don't want anything to sort of spoil the experience or what else would you call it, kind of give too much away. And then it feels like if you your first impression of the game is maybe one that is not as polished as the final one. So I've basically played that beta and then just haven't touched it since.
Yeah, like I know that feeling, because like I don't know if you've seen Dead Cells, but like I got that in early access, and I got like so far in, and I was just like, they just made like a big change here, and like I have to start over, and like I'd rather just like not play until it's released, and so that's what I did. Like I didn't play, and then like I think when it released, like I just said like start over, wipe my save. I don't think it could even get loaded at that point. So much had changed. And then like just start over, and like
that's also one of the good things about why you haven't released early and then just like decided to fix things, because at least that way the people who do buy it brand new and haven't played the beta will just be like a fresh game to them.
Yeah, you also get like when you release something buggy, like that's the way everyone's going to remember it.
Exactly.
There's so many games that like
it taints it.
I've heard like had a shaky launch, and then like that's all people remember about it. They never remember.
And the reviews won't change either. Like those initial reviews will just haunt the game for the rest of its life. So it's good that you're doing what you're doing. I'm sure everyone's just happy that you're still working away. So one of the things I have noticed, a little feature, is that you can now gamble ammo in the game.
Oh yeah, that's like really new. That was like
right.
That was, well, I think that would have been August, because that was right when like Discord had like 30 people in it, I think.
Okay.
So like like I wanted all the traders to have something unique, and for the longest time Wong has had nothing. I think the initial idea was that like he would just offer the best prices compared to all other traders, but like that, I don't know, that never really like felt that great. I never felt like, oh, it's him, like he's the most fair. So I wanted him to have something unique. So like I eventually kind of settled on like gambling, and I kind of felt like it'd be fun to just not just make it money, but make it ammo as well. So like you can gamble shotgun shells with him, and it's basically just like free card Monty. So you've got a 1/3 chance of increasing your amount.
Right.
Your luck stat does play into it though. So if you build your luck up, you can get better odds. In fact, there is actually a little exploit right now. There's an item that's not super common called the Lucky Rabbit Foot that increases your luck. And if you level up your luck and use a Lucky Rabbit Foot, then gamble, like you're almost guaranteed to win. So I need to kind of like come up with something. I thought about maybe just saying like he'll just call you a cheater and refuse to like let you gamble again for that run.
Okay. And then one other thing I noticed, it's not really a feature, but it was just that you shown off one of the churches from Dead Pixels 1 versus one of the churches from Dead Pixels 2, and it seems like a dramatic change in the, not style, but like just the amount of detail in some of the backgrounds and artwork is.
Oh yeah, like I think that was like, we'll say that was probably a night of working. It'd actually been done I'd done the initial like outline of the church in April, I think. Because I'd wanted to add churches for ages, and I was in Edinburgh, and there was one like that I saw, because I was trying to work out how to like get a church like right on a street without having
right.
like, because generally churches have like an area around them, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like a small like walled off area. So I was trying to work out how do I actually get like this church on the street. And there was a particular church in Edinburgh I saw that was like pretty much right against the pavement, and I was kind of like, okay, so I could kind of do it like this.
Yeah,
And so like I'd done the outline, and then I think I found it in a folder, and I'd never done anything more to it, and I was just like, I should just finish this and put it in. And so like added it in as a chance to spawn in graveyards and in streets. And then I've also added like a little thing where like at 12 midday it's bells will ring, and they'll any unaware zombies that hear the noise will actually kind of start walking in that direction, which is quite fun.
yeah. And that you're still doing the artwork yourself. That hasn't been
So I
subbed
do
out.
like all buildings and like static things I do, and then I've had another person doing some enemies,
Right.
and then like I had someone else doing like artwork for like the VHS covers.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think I had another person, actually one of the musicians, done one of the VHS covers because the first guy wasn't available. In fact, like I think I later found out that he was possibly busy doing like another game's like box art, because he have you heard of Night Trap for the
Oh yeah,
Mega
yeah.
CD? They've done a
Oh,
place.
it's being re-released.
They've done a PS4 version, and so like the person that had done the artwork for the PS4 version done the Dead Pixels 2 box art as well.
Oh, nice.
So that's what was probably like, he said that like he was busy working on another project, and so I think that might have been it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if that came out this year. I think it came out last year.
I've got a funny feeling it's also coming out for the Switch, which I thought was a really strange choice for. But then I guess it was originally on, I think, a Nintendo console.
No, it wasn't, because like they had like it was
Oh,
on
it was
it was
video.
on the Mega CD or the
Oh,
Sega
is that what it
CD.
was?
And I think it was also on like a Panasonic like
Oh,
video player
yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I believe that like they had like they didn't like Nintendo because they felt like during the whole like court cases about like, is this obscene? Like there's teenagers being killed by vampires in this
Yeah.
game, and like people saying it had like sexual violence in it, which it didn't at all. And
Right.
like I think Nintendo kind of threw them under the bus a little.
Yeah, I know.
And
I knew there was some Nintendo connection, and I thought it was strange that it was actually coming to the Switch.
so
But
they done a Kickstarter like a few years ago, and it failed horribly because like it seemed obvious that like they didn't know, they'd made this game in the 90s and they just didn't know anything about like the industry today, because like
right.
they said like the game would be on PlayStation and Xbox, but they didn't say which PlayStation and which Xbox.
PlayStation One.
And they just said like it wouldn't be on Nintendo. They didn't like name the console. And like the Kickstarter failed because like there were too many like odd questions. Like they said that like you'd get the game just on a disc without a case, and from what I've heard, like Sony and Microsoft will not allow a game to just ship
Yeah.
without a case. Like it has to be, if it's going on their console, it has to be in a case.
Yeah,
And
because you've got certain rights with a disc. If something happens, it technically, I think you can. I don't know if it's still the same, but it used to be that you could legally ask Microsoft to
you might be
replace a
able
disc.
to. Yeah, I think like stuff like that. I know
Yeah.
like I've had like losing a CD key for a game and having to like phone up and like list all the codes that are on the manual to prove that I owned
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Um, but like yeah, it was a real mess, and like I believe what happened is it kind of failed, and like they'd kind of made out that like they needed like super programmers to put this basically video like playing game onto a new console. And like I think they said like it was impossible to put it on iPhone at all, and someone kind of like done it as a proof of concept, and I believe they got hired to actually like
Oh.
do the game because like they actually proved that like you could put a Night Trap on an iPhone. There's a great little documentary by I can't remember what the YouTube's called, but they do mostly like retro games videos, and they done one on Night Trap that I believe was actually like included like possibly on the disc of the PS4 version.
And okay, they did this before the game was the re-release
It was like
was
during its development.
Okay.
They done this, and they
I
put
may
it
have
on
actually
YouTube
seen
as well.
it, to be honest. I think I remember seeing a kind of longish video on YouTube about it around the same time. But if we work out after, I can put a link to that in the
Yeah, I'm like having like a little
description.
scroll through my subscriptions to see
Yeah.
like what they're called.
I
But
think I actually seen that though.
they do really good videos, mostly on like the hardware of like retro consoles and like getting the best video out of all of them, because like
Right.
it can be a bit awkward like hooking things up now to modern TVs. And
Okay, well, the other thing I was going to say, I noticed again on your Twitter, there's like you're working on a new intro, like a post-apocalyptic. It shows what do you call it? A caravan.
yeah,
mobile home driving.
I've gotten very into the habit of saying RV, which like is the
Right.
American, recreational vehicle. Because like if I say camper van, like they're not going to know
Yeah.
what I'm meaning. So I've got into the habit of saying RV.
It's in a lot of, like, Walking Dead has an RV at certain points, and it's
Yeah,
it
like
is a bit synonymous
I think I
with
kind of went
zombie.
through like a few vehicles. The earliest version of Dead Pixels 2, like one of the earliest betas versions had like it was like a cop car that had been like covered in armor
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff, and like I think at some point I was kind of like, no one wants to live in a cop car, like
Yeah,
especially if it's like you're 4-player, you shouldn't be living in a cop car. So like I think I kind of alternated between like RV and like an American school bus for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I eventually just settled on like I like the idea of the RV, even though Walking Dead had already done it. It just seemed like you could actually live out of one without like a lot of converting
Yeah.
it and stuff.
And is that the intro to the main game, or is that like an intro to a stage in the main game?
So
or...
like this should be like intro to the main game, because
Right.
currently I've got this little driving sequence with the RV, and the issue with it is the RV is so big, it takes up so much of the screen that like you're going so fast that like there's not really much there. And so I kind of felt like I kind of wanted to get rid of that and instead have like a montage of it driving around different areas like in America, and then I can kind of show things that like I wanted to do as areas but just couldn't do, whereas like all I need to do is literally like one like screen worth of an area. That's all I need to do. I don't need to make it a full property.
Exactly.
And so
it doesn't need to be too
there's a
long.
bunch of little stuff where I'm just like, I really wanted to have a Chinatown area, and like I kind of decided like I can't do this. I can't make like 30 buildings with Chinese writing.
I noticed there's also I don't even know where I found this. I think I dug around on your YouTube account and found there was like, I don't know if it was a mission or like some sort of objective to clear out a school.
Oh, so I think that would have been the daily mode. Has like it's set to clear out. Actually, that I don't know if that would have been the daily mode, or I think it might just been like a custom game I set up to clear out. But clear out's another option, as well as
Oh, that's cool. So you have to kill all the zombies in that area.
you have to kill all of them to progress to the next area, and so that kind of it's just doing something a little different. And so like that'll be eventually into custom game if you want to like choose to do like a custom game where you do clear out. The daily does it just because the daily's like a score timed thing. So everyone's like, if I made it just like you just got to run to the end, everyone would just run to the end as quick as they could.
Yeah.
So instead I made it you have to kill every zombie. And so then it's like, what's the most efficient way? What's the quickest way to kill zombies? Is what dailies became. But like, I kind of hope that I can make that like. Well, the plan is anyway. Like some runs within the story mode will also be like clear out. So like you might have a job to clear out, like say a hospital or something, so they can like. Right. Other survivors can go in and loot the supplies, so you've got to go in and like clear out every room as you go through it, and so you might have to like stock up on stuff a bit before you like tackle something like that, or you might want to like take particular weapons with you that time. You know.
See, because the daily run's actually something new to me because I haven't seen this. So what do you want to explain a little bit what the daily run is or what?
So every day it's 12 midnight GMT, like it resets, and it's the exact same like areas get generated for everyone, and you get one attempt to get through as quick as you can, and then they get put on the scoreboard, and they get ordered. First, it gets split into like those that actually survived and those that died. And then the ones that died are organized by how many kills they got, and the ones that survived are organized by how fast they done it. So you get a place on the leaderboard, and it's ended up being like kind of good. It's great for testing as well, just because like not everyone wants to like sit down and play for an hour, but like the daily should be like 20 minutes at most.
And that's just a one-time thing. If you die in that, you don't get to try it again.
So it resets every day, and everyone gets the same like random areas every day. So the Wednesday one is a little different. The Wednesday one has a bunch of randomized options, and you have unlimited tries on it. Although normally I think like I've not bothered to go beyond like 2 or 3 tries on it, but the kind of it just lets it be a bit weirder. I think the last one had like. You didn't gain XP, so you didn't level up. Building interiors were pitch black, so you could only see a small area around yourself, but the zombie eyes glowed, so you kind of knew where they were. I'm trying to think. I think it started with like a bolt rifle instead of a shotgun, and I can't remember what other options there were in it, but like it chooses a bunch of random options each time, and so sometimes you get ones like. There was one, not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, it had toxic rain. So, like, you got damaged when you were outside. Stores were not safe, so zombies would follow you into stores. And I can't remember what the other thing was, but that one ended up being quite fun. And, like, there was a lot of kind of luring zombies into stores to kill them indoors, so you didn't have to, like, stay in the rain and, like, lose health. And actually, I think that one, I think I rage quit because, like, I died with, like, I was, like, 2 kills away from, like, finishing, and I died, and I just refused to try again. But, like, the daily seems to kind of work out really well. And I try and encourage it. I need to set up a second, well, I have a bot on the Discord that it marks people as currently playing Dead Pixels 2, so that like you can see who's playing, and it keeps track as well of people that have played in the past. It makes their name green on the Discord. I need to add like another bot. The idea would be like once a day it would post the like top 10 of the daily, because there is a current issue just now of like. There's no way for anyone but me to look at the scores from yesterday.
Okay.
So, like, you kind of just know what you got, like, when you made your run. And if, like, you were the only person, then as far as you knew, like, there was only one person played.
And then people think it's a dead game.
Yeah, so, like, I need to, like, maybe have it in game as well, like what were yesterday's top 3 scores or something, so that like people can like feel like a little good about like if they do manage to make it.
See that? I mean, that must be so frustrating as a game to because you're not really spending a lot of your time developing things for the game. It's more for the menus and the backgrounds and how the online works and stuff like that. And it's
the slowest thing to do is menus.
Yeah.
Like I can easily just like spend a whole day just making a menu look right, and it's just in fact like I think I kind of like last week I think it was I spent like 2 days just trying to sort out a menu because Visual Studio, which is what I used to make the game, kept crashing, and so I kept making like a change and then it would crash, and if I was lucky I'd saved, and if not then like I had to do it all again. And it just, I had a day of that, and it just got so frustrating. Like, just dragged out, like, just moving text boxes around and, like, trying to make sure things are lined up right and readable and, like, look nice. There's quite a few menus that I'm not too happy with how they look. I want them to look a bit better and be easily readable. I kind of, I don't know. So sometimes I'll stare at menus. Maybe it's just because like I'm so used to like looking at some of the menus. But I kind of feel like everything kind of blurs together, and I'm kind of like, no, I need this part here needs to stand out. So then I'm playing around with colors and like trying to make things, move them around so that like things look right, and like it gets so. And like some things, like I changed one of the fonts used in a bunch of menus. And like I just felt like it looked wrong for the longest time, and I think it was just because I'd gotten so used to the other fonts that it looked bad. Like, or it didn't look bad, but it looked wrong. And like one of the other testers said the same thing. But like now looking at it, it's like no, this looks fine. Like this font's like half the size of the other one, so I can get like so much more text in, because like I used a big giant like font, like the kind of text that like VCRs have when like you pause, and like that text's massive, but like that's how it looks, and like I used that for so many menus, and it was just like you can show only like 5 lines of text this way, so I needed something smaller, and like it didn't look like quite as iconic, but like it's more usable and readable and everything. So
well, I actually recently changed Xbox 360, and because it's got a new hard drive, I went to download some of my old games, and I don't know if you know this, but there doesn't seem to be any way, even though that I bought Dead Pixels 1.
So I'm under the impression that you maybe can still get it, like I don't remember where. Like I've had a few. It's kind of annoying. I've had a few people like message me about it, and I've kind of forgotten to reply to them. I'm under the impression you can still download it.
See, there's something. I think so. I think if it's still on your hard drive, because I think I then went to my old hard drive and it was still there, but I think it's Xbox Live Indie Games has been shut down.
Yeah,
so I think
it's gone. I believe you possibly have to go into purchase like history.
Yeah, your purchase history I think might work, but
because I believe that's how you get like some of the XBLA games that are like got taken off. Like if you bought the Scott Pilgrim game, they don't have that anymore.
See, there are certain games that have lost their licensing issues for Xbox Live Arcade, but
I believe you can still get them. You just got to go through purchase history. They're not on like the store. And I
think so, as long as you've paid for it. So it might be the same with Dead Pixels, but I know that basically unless you have purchased it, Xbox Live Indie Games just simply doesn't exist.
Yeah, it got closed down.
There's no servers for it.
I think it was a year ago. Like it was kind of a sad day, like watching it, because they deleted them in chunks. So it was kind of like, I think I lasted like a few days of Dead Pixels still being there, and then like it eventually disappeared.
Yeah, just for preservation reasons, it's frustrating to see, but at least Dead Pixels 1 is on Steam, at least it's sort of survived there.
I think some people are kind of messaging me about like preservation. I was like, well, it's there, it's on Steam, it's still available.
Yeah,
it's just
It's
bad
but
like
it
the
is
Xbox
sad
version.
not to be able to. I mean, if you and I can see like if someone has a hard drive full of lots of indie games or lots of Xbox Live games, that will be a rare thing in the future.
There was a guy that I can't remember if he was trying to buy every Xbox Live indie game or at least download every demo of an Xbox Live
Yeah,
indie game. But I don't know
because
like how far he got.
I actually still have a few demos of games I didn't buy Xbox Live indie game, and you can play them. And I've tried to actually buy them. There was one called Applejack that was kind of
Oh yeah,
fun, and I always played the demo, but for some reason never purchased it. And now I wish I did, because if you press the purchase button, it just comes up with could not connect to server, more or less. So
I had a feeling that they were on Steam.
oh really?
Although searching Applejack just brings up My Little Pony.
Maybe not then. But do you ever
Oh yeah,
envisage?
Applejack 1 and 2 on Steam.
Oh, cool. Well,
So you can
I'm
get
gonna go
1
and,
and 2 together.
I'm gonna go and get that.
Oh, that's depressing. It's only got like 5 reviews.
No. Well, the question I was going to ask you was, do you ever see Dead Pixels 2 coming to Xbox One or PlayStation 4? Is that because I do see some indie kind of games and they seem to be getting a little bit better, but I don't know what the requirements are for
Was that Dead
indie games.
Pixels 2, did you say? Or
Yeah, no, Dead Pixels 2.
So like I've had multiple like I don't want to do the work. So like I have had multiple publishers saying they'd be interested, but I'm always in this place of like I want the game finished before like I'm locked into some deal with them of like
Yeah.
them expecting it. There was a publisher was really interested like 3 years ago, and I'm kind of happy that I didn't say yes because like I don't know, they might have been not pleased of like waiting around for me to finish the game.
Yeah.
So like I've had a few people and like I've tried following a few of them up, and then like some of them have not gone anywhere, and some of them like at least are like interested still. So like
Yeah.
I the issue's actually online because it'll I've been coding it to rely on PC online stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like I could be wrong, but I'm under the impression that would be like the hardest thing to get working.
Well, I mean, I have some friends that like playing the single player and like playing offline co-op, so if it didn't have online, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
I think it's one of those things like it kind of maybe needs it, just because like people.
For updating servers and stuff.
Well,
like
no,
that.
just people like to play games online now, and not
Yeah.
everyone has like friends coming around. Like I used to be like the guy that had like all the games, and so like I had friends coming around constantly, and like playing local games. I don't think I've even had like I've maybe got one friend still comes around and we'll play some like local co-op games, but it doesn't really happen the same anymore. So like even I've reached that point now where it's like online's maybe a bit more preferable for co-op, which is a shame. But it has made me think of like original Dead Pixels, like porting it to like Switch and Xbox One and PS4 is quite doable even by me maybe. I don't really know. I don't know. There's a part of me that would be like, would I want to do this untouched, or like would I want to like touch it up in some ways, or
Yeah, in case they do a bad job, or
it's just it's an older game as well, and like there's certain things I might want to change now. Like I know there's a gun that got like priced wrong, and I've just never changed it. So someone like asked me about it, like they were like, this gun is clearly worse than this gun, but like their prices are around the wrong way, and I was like, well, that's just how it is then.
yeah, the store's just ripping you off.
And so like I don't know. I kind of said that I'd maybe like to do like the first step would be doing Mac and Linux versions of Dead Pixels 1, and then like Xbox One is maybe like an easy one to do because like I believe it's anyone like make games for it. It's just you might get lost in the horrible like app stores for it.
There seems to be some way that you can play certain PC games on an Xbox One. So maybe
Yeah, they have like a whole thing about like making games
Windows
that could be
games.
like or Windows apps that work on Xbox One
Yeah.
as well. So like
Hmm.
I bought an Xbox One to try and like start learning how to do it, and like just have never found the time.
Do you ever envisage like a physical version of the game coming out, even just for PC?
I mean, I'd love to do like at expos. I have like these VHS cases that light up, and I've kind of
Hmm.
thought it'd be fun to do like a collector's edition of like, you know, making like 100 of them or something, like VHS cased, like versus the game just like on a USB stick, and like throw in like a soundtrack and maybe like a poster and like a bunch of other stuff, postcards and stuff. And like, I don't know, I think if I was to do it, like I'd be happy to like make not very much off each one, because it just sounds
Yeah.
like something that like I'd enjoy doing. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it is just I think it's something I'd like to do. There is like companies like I'm trying to remember what they're called. Indie Box, I think. Just a second.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, Indie Box. I had one behind me, and I was trying to like reach around and see what company made it. But they used to make. I think it was once a month they'd make like a boxed PC game with a bunch of extras, and it was like a subscription service. And they're no longer a subscription thing now. You just buy the ones you want, rather than like paying every month and getting
Oh, okay.
whatever
Yeah.
game, which is probably good, because like I was subscribed for a few months and I was just like, I don't really want these games, and like I wasn't that impressed with like some of the stuff inside of them, but like some of them were really nice. So
Yeah.
it's better that, you know, you're kind of picking and choosing. But I've got a few of them, and like they're really nice for like just random little extras, little figures and like plushies and like flags and stuff
Hmm.
inside the box. Um,
I remember last time we talked, you mentioned that people were saying, I think it was actually if you were making, I don't know if it was you were making Dead Pixels 2 or the first one, but people were saying how zombie games are kind of done now and they're probably on their way out and stuff like that. But at the last E3, there was like, I count, like, there was more zombie games than not zombie games. It seems to be actually, if anything, just as popular or maybe even more popular.
yeah, it still seems
Um,
to be going, and like I think Walking Dead, the TV show, is still going. So
hmm.
like we're maybe like past like extreme zombie peak, but like it's still there. You know,
Well, I have a list here of games that I'm just wondering if you're also keeping an eye on them or you're interested in them. But there's four coming out that I know of. Um, Dying Light 2, World War Z, the film is getting like a game, that was completely out of the blue. They just announced that all of a sudden. It seems to be coming out quite soon. And then there's Overkill's The Walking Dead, and then we're getting the new Resident Evil 2 remake. And then also actually there's one other thing. Far Cry 5 is getting like a zombie DLC added as well. So that's like five
mm,
games that are coming out or are already out this year. Well, in the next say 6 months, they're all available, which is pretty impressive. There's so many zombie games, but are those? Do you keep an eye out for them kind of games
so
or?
like I'm definitely going to get the Resident Evil 2. Like I'm a big Resident Evil fan, so like that's something I'm like excited for.
Mhm.
I don't know if I've seen anything other than like a trailer, but I was interested in it was Overkill, wasn't it?
Yeah, The
Yeah,
Walking
they're
Dead,
Walking Dead.
made by Overkill.
Like
Yeah.
that at least like piqued my interest. Although like they also done Payday 2, which like
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
the idea of, and like I think there was just a point where I was just like, I want more content from this.
Mhm.
I don't know what they'll do. Like that could be like, I mean, some people compared Payday to being like Left 4 Dead without zombies. So maybe they're just kind of
Well,
coming full circle and just making like Left 4 Dead.
yeah. I mean, that's the vibe I get from The Walking Dead. It's very like Left 4 Dead, but the good thing is they've released a lot of. I think it's. I don't know if it's every week, but it certainly feels like that. Where they do like developer diaries and they're showing off the game. Like there's lots and lots of footage of the game, so they're what concerns me more is whenever a game's coming out and you don't see anything of it for the longest time, then all of a sudden it's like comes out and then you start seeing stuff. So the fact that they're showing so much content means that they're at least confident in it that it's going to be a good game. I've got one last like game development question, then I'm probably just going to maybe talk a little bit about some movies because, you know, since it's Halloween and stuff. But it was just when we're talking about workload and things like that, I've again been stalking you on Twitter and noticed that you are possibly working on another game, or maybe this was just a one-off. Because I'll read out the tweet is that it's just that you said here, I had a gaming idea this morning that I felt compelled to work on. I'll be back to Dead Pixels 2 tomorrow, but for the rest of the day I'm working on this little cyberpunk, very dystopian, running on a lobotomized version of Dead Pixel 2 engine. So it was like a screenshot of I think it was like a kitchen with a couple of guys. So is that something that you just did for fun, or like just...
I'm not sure. I think it was just like I had a similar moment like a couple of days ago, but I didn't stop everything for it. But like sometimes I'll just come up with like some idea and like I don't know, like I think it was distracting enough that it was like running through my head, this game idea, that I at least wanted to like work on something. And like I think I just kind of felt like I needed like that day off. From Dead Pixels 2. And like I can't remember exactly when that was, but I remember that like I literally couldn't work on it any more than one day. Because I think I was going away, so like I needed to be like back onto Dead Pixels 2 like after the day. But it was just kind of like, I guess it was just like I got a day to be like, okay, like I'm going to watch a film. Like I watched the Terry Gilliam film Brazil, because like it was very much like themes I was wanting for this game, and like I was gonna mess around with it. And like looking back now, I'm not sure if it's like a game I'd want to make. But I also, I don't know, I was kind of thinking about like I'd love to make like a bunch of small projects once I'm done with Dead Pixels 2.
Yeah.
And this could be one.
I find the same thing working on, if I'm working on like a big series of videos that I know that I'm going to spend a lot of time on, my mind will just wander and I'll just like, oh, I feel like making this little video now, so I'll just like jump from place to place. And it's good to take a day off. You kind of feel guilty that you're not working on your main project as such, but like sometimes you need that just to sort of get away from the grind of the main project, you know.
I'd said about my laptop had stopped charging, and it took me the kind of longest time to realize this, because like I normally have a day away with my girlfriend. There's a little distance between us, so like there's normally a few hours of train rides, and like I've usually worked on my laptop all that time, like there and back, and I can't remember what happened, but I just kind of decided occasionally, like I'll be like, I'm not taking the laptop today, but like recently I've just been like, I'm not taking the laptop, full stop. And so I never really noticed that it wasn't charging anymore because it was always plugged in. And like now I've got a new laptop, there's like a part of me's like, well, I could take that with me, but like there's a part of me's also like, but it was kind of nice, like just loading up some films on the iPad and like getting to sit down and watch a film and not be like working at the same time or like doing something else, or like I read through some comics and some other stuff on the train. And so I'm a little undecided if like, I think I've got the laptop now, so I can work if I need to, but like otherwise I think I'm going to try and keep that one day, like a week minimum, like completely like development free
day off,
and just kind of just
I think sometimes you need that just to clear your head a little bit, because you can just get into a bit of a, I suppose it's called in the writing industry, it's writer's block, but you could get the same thing. Like I think sometimes I get into like the issue of like I want to add this thing, but I'm going to break like something else, or like the only way I can think to code this is really, really badly, and like all I need is to kind of like get away from the computer and like it's still going in my head, you know, and I'll kind of like still be thinking on it, and then like I'll come up with a solution that's like much better than what I was about to do. And if like I just forced myself to do the bad solution, then like it might not be as good for the game overall. So it's like that thing I find that if you're doing something, even if it's a game you're playing, there's a puzzle you're trying to solve, or there's something you're working on, and you're doing it late at night, it just feels like it's impossible. And you go to sleep and then wake up, and the first thing, like within minutes of waking up, you just like automatically realize a better way of doing something. And I think it's just because you're so tired that you miss things that if you were more alert, you would have spotted it straight away.
I tend to kind of work like backwards to everyone else. Of like, I tend to have like time to myself in the morning, and then like at night I just keep working till I fall asleep. And there will be times where I'm just like, I've pushed myself far beyond the limit, and I'm just like, I just can't work out what's going wrong, and like, I just need to realize when I'm at that point and just go to bed, because I'm just wasting hours of like changing things, trying to work out what's gone wrong, because I'm not even processing like things right.
Yeah. See, I've noticed that whenever I'm doing that, and I'm it's so late that any work I do at that time is like, if I was more awake, I would probably do it 4 times quicker. You know, any work that's done in those like dying hours of the night, it's like really unproductive. You know,
I feel mixed about it, because sometimes I'm like, it's great because it's quiet and there's no interruptions whatsoever. But then like other times, if I'm exhausted, it depends what I'm working on. Like I do sometimes feel like I can like work late night quite well sometimes. And if it's like, if I'm doing art, like it doesn't need a lot of thinking.
Exactly, something repetitive.
Yeah, so like it depends what I'm working on. I have realized that I am like creeping into like a horrible sleep pattern of like, I think I went to bed at 5 this morning, and then like woke up at 2 in the afternoon, and was just like, oh, where's my day gone?
Yeah.
And so I need to kind of like get back into like something more productive and a bit better.
Well, just when you mentioned that you've pre-ordered or funded, I suppose, the Resident Evil 2. Was it Kickstarter or Indiegogo?
It was Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. Well, it's just that in the last podcast you'd mentioned that you had funded Nightmare City.
Oh.
So, but it seems like they've run into some sort of money troubles, or I just out of interest went on to see what their last update was, and they says here that they are planning on shooting the film mainly in Puerto Rico, because it will benefit from attractive film funds and tax incentives. But it seems like that was quite a while ago you funded that, and it seems like they're still very much in the planning stage.
That could have been like 2013. I backed that. Like I was going through my my Kickstarters, like seeing what the oldest ones are that I've not got anything from, or like missing something. Like there's a podcast that I've been expecting a DVD from since like 2012, and there's like the next one after that. The DVD should be coming. I've been told it's like been like sent now, so that's nice. But the next one's like Shenmue 3, because I backed that like 3 years ago. At
least it's coming. Did you get the HD re-release?
No, I maybe should though. I'll maybe get it because on sale.
I bought it and still haven't got around to it. I've installed it and just haven't brought, because I know that it's one of those games that you really have to want to play and have to like.
Have you played it before, or?
Yeah, I played both on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I've got them on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I loved them, and I played them for hours and hours whenever they first came out, and haven't really played them much since, but looking forward to going back and playing. I watched a review and people were saying about how unuser friendly it is, but it's one of those ones you'll have to really put the effort into, because it's a slow burner of a game, so it is.
But yeah, the Nightmare City one, it was an Indiegogo, so like I think they're a bit more lenient with like projects on Indiegogo. But like I was, the way I saw it was like I was funding like Tom Savini to possibly make another film, to direct another film, and like I don't feel massively ripped off. I think it's a shame that like he hasn't got to make the film, but like I don't know.
From reading it, it seems like they're just running into like problems that they wouldn't have had in, whenever he was originally making films. There seemed to be just like, they said that they'd have to get like a really big studio involved, and they don't want to do that because they'd make all sorts of cuts and things. So
it seemed like they were just looking for like a small amount to get like the ball rolling, and then get like a proper investor. I think it's a shame. Like I kind of wonder if like maybe there is some like issues behind the scenes that like, because I would have thought that like Tom Savini would have been like enough of a name to like kind of get the ball rolling, but
they're
maybe
more
not.
They're more or less saying that it was much easier to make zombie movies back in the day, but now it's hard for someone to, because I think they said that because there's so many like B movies on like Amazon and Netflix and all these sort of things, that unless you have a really big A-list star, which they can't afford, no one's going to just put up like, I think they basically need like 1.5 million to make it, is what they're saying, and they can't, unless they go with a big studio, they just can't get that.
Yeah, it's a shame.
So, well, at least they're still, I'm saying that the last update was a year ago, so who knows what's happening now, but and then since we were last talking, we were talking about George A. Romero, and he has now sadly passed away, but it seems like, I don't know if it was just before he died or it came out afterwards, but he was working on a film called Road of the Dead. I don't know if you know much about that. Have you heard anything about that?
Was it the TV show? I think there was like a TV show he was involved in.
I think there may have been something like a comic book or something, but
he had a comic series. I know that.
I think what happened, because if my memory's right, I remember hearing the what would you call it? The rumors or whatever, like the initial announcement was George A. Romero is working on You of the Dead, and then it feels to me like only a couple of weeks passed, and then he died. But I think they may still be making it. I'm not too sure, but he wrote the script with someone, so the script exists at least, and I think they were more or less starting. And all I know about it is it's like all you really get to hear about it is that the story's set on an island where there's like zombie prisoners, and then they're racing like NASCAR style races. And it says like for the entertainment of wealthy humans, so like it just seems to be like one of, like how Land of the Dead was big into the.
There's a little bit on Wikipedia on it. It says he died 3 days after it being announced. So
yeah. I know. I remember it happening, because I remember first hearing the announcement, then hearing he died, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
it's sad that. Hopefully the film does get made, but I haven't actually heard much more about it. Is there any other horror movies that you're looking forward to? Any other even zombie ones or anything like that?
I'm not sure. I'm kind of really bad about like keeping up to date with films, and so it's like when things actually come out, like I don't watch TV, so I don't see trailers, and like unless there's like a buzz on something, like I don't watch trailers on YouTube much. I tend to like a lot of. I go to a film festival every year, a horror film festival, and so that's where I get to see like a lot of like new stuff, and like talk to people as well about other interesting films, and like try and check them out.
Yeah, I think last time you mentioned you've mentioned a few, but one of the ones that you mentioned I hadn't seen was It Follows, and it was.
Oh yeah.
I've since seen that, and I really liked how that it seemed so much different to anything else I'd seen.
Yeah, I really love It Follows. I should watch that again.
It's really good. It's like the suspense is like perfect in that film, I think, as well. And there's like not as many jump scares, and like it's.
I don't know if it was in when we talked last, but there is totally It Follows inspired boss in Dead Pixels 2.
Oh.
That's available under custom games if you turn on Nemesis mode, which kind of reference to Resident Evil.
Yeah.
But like she will just follow you to the ends of the earth, and like you can kill her, but like she just gets back up
Keeps
after a few
coming back.
seconds.
Oh,
And
nice.
like,
See, that's the you mentioned about survival horror and how you weren't sure whether to list it as a survival horror, and if those enemies were more prevalent in the game, then I could see it being a survival horror because you're not able to kill that enemy and you have to keep avoiding it. So I think that's
yeah. I mean, you can
um,
avoid all the zombies. I done some special coding so that like they don't get too close to each other, so that like even if they surround you, you can kind of like run in between them.
oh, okay,
Which like avoiding. I've actually done some changes recently because avoiding zombies in Dead Pixels 2 is so much easier than Dead Pixels 1 because they have like an
yeah.
attack animation that gives you like a little bit of time to like get out of the way.
See, the thing, like, survival horror keeps coming up, and you know, it's a bit of a hot topic as to what is and what isn't. And my argument would be that, so my argument is that if you have to avoid the enemies, then technically it's survival horror because you're having to survive in another way other than just trying to kill everything around you. But then people will say like, oh well, in Dead Space you can avoid the enemies, you can just run past them. But the way I see it is there has to be more of an incentive to avoid them. So, well, actually, Dead Space is a good example because if you kill the enemies, they drop ammo. So in some ways, there's an incentive to just kill all the enemies because there's actually no real incentive not to kill them because if you like compare it to a game like Resident Evil, where by avoiding the zombies you're actually saving ammo, and you're doing that so that you save the ammo for the bosses. But like if the enemies are dropping ammo, then you've got no real incentive not to just kill them like any other action game. So I would argue that in Dead Pixels, because the zombies are dropping coins which you're then going to use to buy more ammo,
Yeah.
there's no real reason to avoid them other than, oh, that was fun to run, or if you run
Well,
out
I
of ammo
mean,
or something.
you
But
don't always have the chance of like restocking on ammo, so it kind of
yeah,
I don't know. It's one of those genres. A lot of genres in games are hard to like actually define. Like I've heard like
yeah.
so many arguments about like this is an RPG and this isn't, and like it can be a little all over the place. Like everyone has their own like view on that stuff.
It's definitely a spectrum. Like some survival horrors are like obviously a survival. Like I'll take Hunting Ground. I don't know if you've ever played that. But
I've not played it. But I've heard of it.
You just can't argue that that is anything but a survival horror game because you don't have any way of defending yourself other than running away from the enemies. And you play as a vulnerable character. It has all the sort of usual markers there, but you couldn't tell me that Hunting Ground is an action game, for example. The argument just can't be made. Whereas Resident Evil 2, I'll actually grant people it is a blurred line there because there's a lot of action elements in that game. Some games, like I said, it's a spectrum. Like some games are obviously survival horror, other games are like a bit of both, or maybe have elements of both action and survival horror.
You kind of get like where Resident Evil stops being survival horror as well, because like some people say like, I think like Resident Evil 3 you get is a lot more like here's more ammo than like the previous two.
Yeah, and then they add a dodge function and stuff.
And like 4, like a lot of people wouldn't count it as survival horror, but I feel like there's some points that feel more like survival horror than others.
If you go on to Wikipedia, Resident Evil 4 is classed as a survival horror game, which I think is totally wrong, because it's more or less very, very similar to Resident Evil 5 and 6, which you just wouldn't.
Yeah, it's more an action game. There's some good bits in it that do feel like reminds me more of like.
Yeah, pretty much when you play as Ashley, that's, you could argue, is survival horror, so there's definitely parts of it. But once you start ranking up your character and you become more or less invincible and ammo's not a problem anymore, then it just turns into a total action game. But we got a little off topic. I don't remember what the
I think we were
topic
talking
was.
about films and zombies and. Out of curiosity, is there any films you're planning on watching this month, or are you doing anything like a horror film a day, or? Not
really, actually. But the only I'm a bit like you as well. Where I haven't, like, the last film I went to see even at the cinema was Blade Runner.
Oh yeah.
2049, and I thought it was actually really good. I enjoyed that one, and then I'm a huge fan of Coen Brothers, so like.
Oh yes, I'm a fan.
I want to watch the Ballad of Buster. I think it's Shrugs or something. They've got like a new. Basically, they've got a new western, and I want to watch that. So I do, but I can't quite work out what's going on with it because it seems to be something to do with Netflix, but then it's like I don't know if it's just coming to Netflix or it's like Netflix theaters or something, or maybe I just don't know.
You sometimes get like issues of like some films end up being Netflix in some countries and not others. I know that I don't know if you watched Annihilation.
No.
I kind of recommend it. It got like a cinema release in America, and in the UK it just went straight to Netflix like a month after it was in the cinemas in America.
Yeah.
And I believe the director was kind of unhappy that like he'd made a film to be shown in cinemas, and like you didn't even get that option. But Annihilation's quite good. It's about a team that's going into this weird dome thing, where kind of there's weird genetic mixing happening on with the things inside the inside this bubble, and so it's kind of like a team put together by the military. It's going in to try and get to the center and work out what's causing this.
Yeah,
it's very creepy in scenes. It's quite good overall.
Well, see, I mean, I just googled that the new Coen Brother film, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll definitely go and see this in the cinema. But then I realized it's already been out, and then I don't know. I don't ever remember, and again, I'm a bit like you, where I don't really watch TV, so maybe I just missed the trailers or something, or the advertising for it. But then it just said it's coming to. I've actually got a date here. It's coming to Netflix, November 16th, and it only just released in the summer, so that doesn't seem right to me. I don't know why.
I think Netflix possibly funded it.
Maybe.
Or have paid a lot.
It's an all-star cast as well. It's got like lots of his old or lots of the Coen Brothers old actors, if you know what I mean.
They love to reuse people.
Yeah. And then it's also got James Franco, so it has like a couple of new ones as well. But like, the guy. Do you remember? Did you ever watch what's the old western? No, not the old western. The old George Clooney film, Brother, Where Art Thou? Did you ever watch that one?
Yeah.
And you know the guy that they. So there's three of them, and there's one that they, not the guy that they think got turned into a toad, but the other guy that's with George Clooney. He seems to be like one of the main characters in this new western they've got, and he's like it's kind of half comedy, half serious.
Yeah, just kind of Coen Brothers style.
Exactly, and I actually really like this guy as an actor. He's playing a really good part in it. You should watch the trailer after this here.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely. I didn't realize they were doing this, so like.
No, neither did I. The Ballad of Buster Shrugs. So I'll send you a link to that after, but it looks pretty good. And then there's I'll probably not go and see it at the cinema, but there's a new Halloween. Seems to be like a reboot of Halloween.
It's interesting because I've been doing a little research. So there's multiple Halloween timelines, and so you have. So this one is a direct sequel to the original Halloween. It ignores everything else.
Oh, nice.
So, but whereas like H20 and Halloween Resurrection, only took in like Halloween 1 and 2 and ignored the rest. Right. And then you got Halloween 3 off in its own little world, and you've got like the remake. So it's because I actually today watched Halloween H2O, and so I was like looking up timelines, trying to work out like how they all like fit together. And like this new one is it's a direct sequel to the first film, so it ignores all the rest. So that's kind of like, it makes some big changes because of that.
Well, it seems like Netflix Prime has added like a bunch of like, so Scream, all the Halloweens and stuff. They all seem to be getting slowly added. So I probably will watch through some of them. But I mean, I'm not even really a huge Halloween fan or anything. But
I'm not really either.
Like watching
I've seen probably most of them. I've just don't really remember. I've never watched them in order to like put them together right.
Yeah. There's something about watching old films though. I don't know. I feel like sometimes the older films were like shot better or something. Or maybe because there's less CGI and I don't know what it is, but
I think there's something that just
there's
feels
no
fun rather than hot, trying to like absolutely like turn your
yeah,
stomach. It's just kind of like it's more fun. Even if it's gory, it's like I know this isn't real.
yeah. There's an innocence to older films, I think, as well, especially things that were pre 9/11. There's a naivety to some of the like I watched because we got Prime recently. I've been watching all the old X-File film series, and like it's like cheese city pretty much, but it's still fun to watch, Actually, just I picked up on something you mentioned, just going back to the Halloween and how the timelines were different. The last, it's the last that I know of anyway. The last Terminator film, with the one that Arnold. So, and I think we actually maybe even mentioned this on the. Well, I think we've talked about this before, but there was a Terminator that it kind of ignored a lot of the timelines and just was its own thing.
Yeah,
Genesis. Genesis, yeah, and it was on that Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually in, and I actually really liked that one. So I'm hoping that the ignoring of the timeline things is a good thing. And it's like they just got this really good idea in it, and it doesn't fit in with the rest of the things. But sometimes I think that might actually be a good thing. So
I mean, I don't think it's too bad to to play with that kind of thing and just be like, okay, we're ignoring these like bad sequels.
Yeah.
And we're just, jumping to this. And so, like, with Halloween, like, one of the reasons they're ignoring 2, whereas, like, H2O kept 2, is because 2 is the one where you learn that Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laura, is related to Michael Myers, that they're brother and sister. And so, because this new film ignores that, like, they're not related in the new film. Whereas, like, H2O kept that relationship. And they apparently decided to get rid of it because like it made Michael more scary, that like he's not just going after his family, he's just going after anyone. Like no one's safe. And so it seemed like quite a good idea, like to get rid of that, because I don't think I like the like adding family connection. I think the Jason films done it as well towards the end, and the Freddy films as well, I think. Like added like relatives of Freddy were like characters in some of the films. Like I think his daughter was in one, and like well,
I mean, I don't expect it to be like a legendary film or anything, but I think it's probably going to be like a good watch, a good way to spend.
And John Carpenter came back to do the soundtrack for it, I believe.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, because if you don't know, he's like he does.
Oh, I know who John Carpenter
No, but he
is.
does a lot of music stuff now. So he's currently doing a tour. Thursday I'm going to see him live.
Funny, I did see a picture on Twitter of him and Kurt Russell. So maybe it was promotion for a tour or something.
Yeah, so I think the tour started this week in Europe, and then next week he's in the UK, and then I think he's like finishing in America for Halloween.
Yeah.
So like I was kicking myself I didn't go like a few years ago, and so like when I saw he was doing another tour, like I was like got up early to get tickets and make sure I got in for the Thursday showing. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, we've ran on quite a while anyway, so.
Yeah, I think longer than I realised. I just glanced at the time there.
I know. Look at the time. So, we'll probably end it for now. But I'm glad, and I'm sure lots of other people are glad that Dead Pixels 2 is still being worked on, and you're taking the time to polish it, which is good news, really. So, you mentioned that there might be a demo. There's a demo in the works, so
the hope is to get it out next week. So hopefully by the time this is out, it should be out. The plans to put it on like HIO first, and kind of get a little feedback, and then like maybe put it on Steam and like actually do a proper like marketing push of like here it is, like give it a go, in time for Halloween, so that'll have like. It'll just be a quick, like, 15-minute demo, but it'll have, like, local co-op and single player as well in it.
Well, what I'll do is I'll put a link to, first of all, the Discord, and then that way people can join in on the Discord. And I'll also put a link to the demo once it becomes available. So
yeah.
So look, thanks for joining us again, and good to hear from you. And look forward to playing Dead Pixels 2 when it comes out.
Again, thanks for having me.
All right, see you later, John.
See you.